guest speaker with us, a colonel of Indian Army. On behalf of DIC, I welcome Colonel Romil Bartwal to us. A word about Colonel Romil Bartwal. He is from the most prestigious army establishment, the elite special forces, also known as para commandos in army. Colonel is an alumni of National Defence Academy, Khadakwasla. He is a product of Jawaharlal Nehru University. He is BTech Electronics and he has done MTech from IIT Kharagpur. He's also done Executive MBA from IIM Lucknow, where he has won trophy in his course. Apart from this academic excellence, he's also deeply into adventure and sport activities. Colonel is a professional tracker and an impact maker. He's an endurance runner by passion and has done many half, full, and ultra marathons. Notable among them is Boston Marathon, first and the course record holder in the non-Ladakhi category in 111 kilometer, one of the most difficult high altitude ultra marathon from Leh to Khadungla at the height of approximately 3,500 meters. He has secured podium finish and appreciations in different format and events. Apart from the tracking and running, he has also done remarkable achievement in the field of cycling. He has done 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers, 400, 600 kilometers of beverage and has achieved the title of Super Grandeur. He not only was a podium finisher in the prestigious Ironman event, but also a certified whitewater rafting course expert. Leaving no stone unturned, he has done the basic, advanced, rescue and special mountaineering course. He has done 10 mountaineering expeditions as a team leader, culminating with the summiting the mighty Mount Everest in the summers of 2019. Colonel Romil Bartwal is a great motivational speaker and has given talk in various institutions, schools, army institutions, and corporates. He takes a tremendous interest in inspiring people and is a role model for many fitness and adventure enthusiasts. He has many firsts to his credit. I know our audience is keen on hearing from him. So now I hand over to Colonel Romil Bartwal for his words of wisdom. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm really glad that I've got this platform to share my knowledge or whatever I've learned and earned in past 26 years of my army life. It takes me back to summer of 1994, close to this month. I distinctly remember 26th of September 1994. It was the Services Selection Board at Varanasi. And it was decided, that out of 108 odd students who had come for the selection for the army seats, I was one of them, and there were about 6 who got selected. And if anybody would have asked me what I would do 26 years after spending in army, even in my wildest of thoughts, I would have never felt that I would be able to live such a satisfying life. I'll not say successful or anything because, it's all relative, it's all individualistic decision, but then I would say very, very satisfying life. And why I feel so nostalgic saying this because as luck would have it, yesterday was my last day in the army after 26 years, and today onwards I am a civilian after spending 26 years of my prime time in the army. I am in the civil street now. So it's a very, very special talk today, and that's why I sincerely thank you for this opportunity. So in next about 50 minutes or so, I'll be sharing my journey of past 26 years, what I've learned in the army, what army has taught me, because frankly, as I was telling my wife in the morning, like the time I joined army, I didn't even know how to wear a shorts properly, We call it KDs, khaki dress. So each and everything, right from wearing a tie, how to polish your shoes, army really grooms you to the maximum extent you can ever imagine. So as I said, my journey started after my 12th. I am born, brought up in Delhi. I did my schooling, everything from Delhi, and I have a knack of thing, I have always got the best in things in life. So anybody who's from Delhi would have heard the school called Sardar Patel Vidyalaya, which is there in Lodi State. So I did my schooling from there, one of the best schools, a lot of ethics, a lot of values is there, apart from learning, which is very, very important in the present life. So after my 12th, I was a very thin guy. I'm still not very fat, but then I remember I was at the entrance exam, writing my entrance exam, and the invigilator comes up to me in a big hall of 100,000 students, and he comes and tells me, "Beta, tum kis liye aaye ho?" And I was zapped because an NDA entrance exam, what else somebody would do there? And I realized he was trying to make fun because I was so thin, and he had that perception that anybody who is in the army or joining the army is someone, 6 feet tall, big mustache, big bodybuilder type of a body. So it came as a shock to him that, I had come because I was too lean and thin. I remember I was less than 48 kilograms once I was going for my National Defense Academy. But then somewhere I'll request the audience to please keep the mic on mute, otherwise there'll be a bit of a disturbance. I'll request Amit if you can please keep it on mute. Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much. Okay, so as I was saying, he came up to me and said, "Beta kis liye aaye ho?" And I didn't reply to him because I knew it was not called for. But in my heart, as I would say, now I had a lot of fire inside me, and dreams in my eyes that I had to make it. I had to serve the motherland, and this was my day, and not to get distracted by the surroundings which were all around. So I appeared for the entrance, I cleared it, and December 25th, 1994, I was at the National Defense Academy. Initial few days, lot of exuberance, lot of excitement was there. And then once I started training, within 10-15 days, I realized, that this was tough. I had a totally civil background, as I said, from the schooling. So initial 10 days, I thought maybe they're making life difficult. What we hear about ragging and all. And one fine day, close to 15th or 16th day, I was in the bathroom. Again, I would request someone, please keep the mic on mute. Someone with the HP. Yeah, thanks. Right. So we were there right 4:30 in the morning. I was in the bathroom, and we had common bathrooms. Don't have the luxury of separate cubicles for everyone. So in the bathroom, I was crying. 4:15 in the morning, and then my one co-senior comes up to me and says, "Romil, what happened?" And I was, as they say, crying uncontrollably. And after I got composed, I told him, I said, "Sir, ऐसे तो मुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा." And he was like, "Kya hua? What happened? Why are you crying?" I said, "Sir, initial 10 days, I thought it's going to be, only for 10 days, then I'll get used to it. But then I have realized, this way I'll not be able to continue the training for next 3 years. 3 years is a huge time. Each and every day is a challenge there." And he told me one thing, and that thing I've always carried in my life till now, till the moment I reached on top of Everest. He said, "Romil, don't worry about, 3 years or 6 months or, whole life in army. Just think about small, small things in life. Just wake up in the morning, next day in time, and keep ticking things which you've been doing constantly. And don't think about, that how will you sustain for 3 years." And with this, I want everyone who's listening to this, make note, keep dreaming big, but then always think of small steps in life. Keep, as they say, eat one bite at a time. How do you eat an elephant? You eat one bite, then you eat the other one. And the same lesson I carried on once I was there on Everest. Last year, 2019, we were there, and the moment you see the Everest first time, you just can't believe it because it's so huge and massive. You always feel, how am I going to climb such a big mountain? But then this lesson I carried was, don't worry about Everest that time. You just worry about the next step which you have to take towards the Everest. So point to note, keep dreaming big, but then take one step at a time, keep moving towards your manzil, as they say, and keep moving forward. So that is the lesson I carried from there. And then after that, I've never looked back. There have been lots and lots of challenging times. I remember we used to have a lot of rolling, as they say. You keep rolling, front roll, side roll. And even now, once I remove my t-shirt, my kids, my wife, they are shocked to see the kind of bruises I still hold for so long. It's been 26 years, but the bruises still remain as fresh as they were in those days. So, and at those times, I used to feel a lot of pain. But now I feel, these are the prized possessions, or these are the learnings of those days which have earned it. So it's not uh, a punishment which you feel it is as in those days, but then these are the trophies which you have earned, and these give you a lot of mental strength. So another thing which I've learned like this, that pain is always temporary. If you're doing rolling, if you're doing any physical challenge, it's all temporary, which is going to be there. After a few days, that pain is going to get healed, that injury is going to get away. But then the price of that, as the saying goes, pain is temporary, pride is forever. That pride which you get after surmounting those challenges in life, these are going to be there till the last breath. So I've always felt this thing that, the harder you work, the harder you push yourself, the harder you push your limits, the sweeter the fruits are going to be. So this way life keeps going on, as in my case, after the National Defense Academy, I went to the Indian Military Academy, Dehradun in January of 1998. And there I started my journey of, as I would say, mountaineering. And the reason I am here today, I'm going to speak about a thing called, finding your own Everest, which means finding your true calling in life. Everybody is different. Everybody has got their own likes, dislikes, preferences. I chose my Everest. Everybody has got their own. So I'm going to speak about how to find your own Everest. And for that, I'll take my own personal example, how I chose. So my journey started in 98. Once there was an expedition from the Indian Military Academy, the gentlemen cadets went to an expedition called Mount Kedar Dome, which is there in Uttarakhand. So we go to, from Dehradun, we go to Uttarkashi, and from Uttarkashi, we go to a place called Gangotri. And from Gangotri, there's a trek to Gaumukh, Tapovan, and then you go to Kedar Dome. Recently, I remember it was May of 1998. Our team was going as per plan. Everything was going perfect. And one after the other, we kept on going from one camp to the next camp. And there was a time when we were about to go and reach to the summit of Mount Kedar Dome. We were at the summit camp. Summit camp is a camp which is just below and the last camp towards the summit of Kedar Dome. So once we were there, at night we were sleeping, and late night we had to start our march towards the top of the summit. So once we were sleeping, as bad luck would have it, there was an avalanche. Avalanche is something which you generally don't have any control, and generally people don't live to tell their stories of avalanche because people don't survive. It's as blunt, as simple as that. The team was lucky. Even after the avalanche, the Sherpas, the guides who were there with us, they were able to rescue the team. But unfortunately, one of a medical personals, every time you go on mountains, you have someone who's a medically qualified person. So this individual, our medical assistant who was there with us, his shoes got trapped. On mountains, you wear special shoes, not the normal ones, because of heavy snowfall and all. And his shoes got trapped in the avalanche, and he could not retrieve. And because the weather was bad, it was complete whiteout. Now, because of the complete whiteout, we could not find the base camp. We could not see each other very clearly, and there was a lot of chaos, as anybody can expect. And this person without a shoe, he was in a kind of panic attack, which was, I would say, it was obvious. He couldn't have avoided it. We started moving down towards the base camp, but then again, by the time we reached the base camp, this person died. Now imagine the plight of a young student like me. I was a gentleman cadet that time, 21-year-old, on top of mountains to seek adventure in life, and then you lose one person. It was a big blow, no doubt. The expedition was called off. We had few people whose fingers had to be amputated. Few people had temporary snow blindness. There was a helicopter which came to rescue, and then this person's dead body was rescued. So this obviously came as a big surprise. The parents obviously were not happy because of the situation. One person dying everywhere. It was on newspaper, and that was it. That was I felt my way of adventure had ended. I didn't want anything more because it was my grooming years, and that's how it happened. After that, there was no mountaineering at all. And since today we are going to speak about Everest, I'll fast forward my journey because, as Vikas said about various things which I've done, these were kind of small milestones towards achieving the mighty Everest, which was there last year. And the only thing I realized, what made me apart from all other people who were not able to follow their passions or their adventure journey was, I loved doing all what army had to offer to me. I loved running. I loved various activities, and frankly, I was never good at that. I was kind of poor in the beginning. Then I became okay. Then slowly, I started doing well because I started enjoying whatever I was doing. So things went on. It was a time wherein I got commissioned in the army, and then Op Vijay happened, Kargil War as we call it. I was posted in Jammu Kashmir, a lot of firing, a lot of adventure again was there because whenever firing is there, it's all about life and death. And whenever life and death is involved, things become risky, no doubt. OPJ ended. Finally, I realized, let me start my journey of endurance again. I picked up running way back in 2010 after doing my masters from IIT Kharagpur. In 2010, I reached IIT Kharagpur and I started preparing well, and I did extremely well in the course. I had few papers published in the international journals of, let's say, supercomputing and global computing journals. And then that gave me a lot of confidence because initially I realized in the National Defense Academy and in the Indian Military Academy, academics was never my strong point. I barely managed to pass with the third division in my graduation from JNU, and but then it was just that there were a lot of rigors of physical training which didn't allow me to focus well into studies. So after my MTech from IIT, it gave me a lot of confidence, and I realized, if a person who has scored a third division in graduation can go on to do masters from IIT Kharagpur, then if you work hard, you would get success in other fields as well. So that was a good learning for me that it's not that if you work hard, you'll not get success. It might take more time, but then obviously, if you keep working hard, if you're persistent, if you keep trying, you'll surely succeed. So that was a key takeaway from my IT journey. I realized, and then subsequently, I got posted to Hyderabad. I joined a running group there, and I started running. Slowly, I got in company of accomplished runners there, and I started running longer distances. I started with marathon, which is a distance of 42 kilometers. And then slowly I did a lot of cycling as Vikas was mentioning, Rondoneo series I did in 200, 300, 400 and 600 kilometer cycling in a stipulated time. And then you get recognition from France. So these are things, which gives you a lot of confidence from a non-athlete or non-endurance background. If you get to do so many things, you get very positive vibes and a lot of lessons to learn in life as well. So this way life went on. I was able to achieve success in whatever things I was getting into. Similarly came, once I was running, I did good in running, then came cycling, and then came half Ironman, which is something like you start with a swim, which is 1.9 kilometers of a swimming leg, followed by running, which is 21 kilometers, and then you know, you do a swim for 1.9 kilometers, then you do a cycling for 90K, and then you do a running, which is a 21 kilometer. So once I was doing all these events, I thought, might as well give my best shot. And then that's how I scored a podium at the half Ironman event also in the Hyderabad triathlon. So which was again very satisfying because for a non-accomplished guy or a non-performer to a triathlete was a journey in itself. A lot of hard work, but then the results were commensurate to the kind of work which was being done. So this way things were going fine. I got to again train the team of army for Adventure Challenge Cup, which is one of the most difficult triathlons which are done at the services level. So if there's something which is done at the army level, the level of participation and the competition is again extremely challenging. So that's how I got in touch with training the command team in the Northern Command for adventure triathlon, which comprises of mountain running, mountain cycling, and whitewater rafting. So rafting was again a big challenge because I had no clue whatsoever. But then that habit of working hard and pushing to the limits again came handy. And we went to Raiwala, which was the army node for rafting. We trained our team day in, day out. And it was after 28 days that we were confident enough, and I got my certificate from there from training for the whitewater rafting there. And the team, after so much of training and all, we did exceptionally well. We were runners up in the competition, and which was a big feat because something like this had never been achieved by our command and during those days. So things went fine, everything was going as per plan. The endurance journey was going fine. And then I got an opportunity to participate in the Boston Marathon by qualifying in Mumbai. And believe you me, anybody, and I mean anybody who wants to get into serious running, which is long distance running, has one aim that एक बार right में he wants to do a Boston Marathon. Why they want to do it? Because this is the oldest marathon in the world. Everybody who wants to get into serious running on amateur level, he wants to get into the Boston Marathon. I worked really hard. Hard would be an understatement. I slogged a lot. I got guidance from extremely positive people all around in the running fraternity. And then that's how I could qualify. And then after that, things changed, big time. Because after that, I got the assignment of training the army team. I was the captain for the army ultra marathon team for La Ultra, which is a ultra marathon. Ultra marathon is any distance which is more than 42.2 kilometers. So this race is one of the most gruesome races because it happens in Leh Ladakh. So anybody who's been to Leh would understand how difficult it is to even breathe there, right? For us, it is okay sitting in Delhi or in planes to speak or to run, but then once you go to Leh, you realize, it is an effort only to breathe, leave alone running. But then since we were determined, our team was well trained. That year we had, uh, out of the 10 people who participated, the first 8 were from the army team. And, it was all a havoc because such good results were not expected at this level, because we had 4 course records. I set the record for the non-Ladakhi category. And then basically everything went on as per plan. I couldn't have expected any better results than that. So as things were going on this way, came May of 2018. So May, there was a proposal that Army is going to send a team to on top of the Everest. So I said, good, okay, that's nice to know that, Army sending a team, but then I had no experience to lead a team on top of Everest. Everything you do on ground or on sea level is different, but then anything at an altitude is a different ball game. Believe me, it's totally different. So there was a call that the army was asking for volunteers to lead the team for the Everest. Now, one thing I want all of you to know. See, if you're not trying, as if you're not getting. So my point was simple. If I'm not applying for Everest, as such, nobody's going to give it to me on a plate. So I might as well volunteer for it. I gave my name, knowing fully well that I had no experience, I had no qualification to lead a team to Everest. But then if I'm not trying it, as such, I'm not getting it. It's as simple as that, I just said. With this as backdrop, I said, okay, let me give it a try. I filled up the application form for leading the team for Everest. And then I was shortlisted, I was called, and I clearly remember it was 22nd of May 2018. My boss calls me up, a Major General. He says, Romil, will you lead the team to Everest? And I said, sir, I'll not say no. No, nobody in the army whose worth is salt would say no for Everest. I said, sir, I'll not say no. And he was like, but you don't have any experience on Everest. You have never done any mountaineering. And I said, sir, you're right. I have not done any mountaineering, but I have a lot of endurance things in my bag. I have led teams for, La Ultra. I've led team for triathlons, and I've been an endurance athlete. So I know the physical things which are involved in preparations for Everest, and there's nothing which I cannot learn. So we had 1 year. I said, sir, I'll give my heart and soul. You give me 1 year, and I'll lead the team. So it was a tough call from their side, but then seeing my confidence, the people believed in me. And one lesson I took it from there, from that moment, if I would say, is, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So it's important for you to believe in yourself, then only other people are going to believe in you. Right? If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to do that for you. So that was my thought process with this confidence. I assured my team, I assured my superiors that, I'll be capable enough to lead the team given a free hand. And as they say, rest all is a history. 1 year we trained extremely hard. We've been the worst of places in India for training, be it Siachen, be it Khardungla, be it, anywhere we were there. We used to have a big truck of army. We used to have all the stuff packed behind, be it tents, be it, food items, be it the people. And we used to just move from one place to some other place. Wherever we used to find any difficult mountain, any difficult terrain, we used to just stop, pitch up our tents, go do mountaineering there, wherever we could find. So we've spent about 4 to 5 months in Siachen last year in 2018-19, preparing for Everest in minus 25, minus 30 degrees temperatures. We have run in, heavy snowfall, I would say. There's been snowfall, and we've been going with the complete team out for a run, making sure that, we don't leave any stone unturned to chance. Because believe you me, whatever you may prepare the best. Everest still has lots and lots of surprises for you. Be rest assured. Because if your aim is Everest, you've got to train like that. It's just as simple as that. You cannot just relax and keep dreaming that you'll be able to climb on top of the world. That's not going to happen. If you're extremely lucky, then it's a different thing. But then not everybody gets lucky. To give you statistics, last year 18 people had died, only to climb Everest in that region. 18 people dying, and it could be you. So you don't take any chances. We trained real hard. We started with climbing with 5,800 meters. We did a peak called Golep Kangdi. Then we did another peak which is known as Stoke Kangdi. Now, very strange incident of Stoke Kangdi is, everybody says it's a very easy peak. It's not difficult. Anybody can do it. And that gave me a bit of overconfidence because that was my first peak. And I used to think, that I've been running for so long, so I'll be able to do it easily. And the moment we started climbing, I realized, it's not as easy as it sounds to be. And as they say, a lot of people even say for Everest, that Everest is easy. And believe you me, all those people who say Everest is easy are the ones who have never ever been to Everest. Once you've been to Everest, you would never say it's easy. For that matter, no mountain is easy, believe you me. Right? So Stoke Kangdi, what happened? It's a very funny incident I would like to share. So we were climbing Stoke Kangdi, and one step after the other, slowly. The whole night we started at about 8:39 in the evening, and morning 6 o'clock we were there close to the summit. So we were very tired. And the moment we were there on summit, we all gathered together, flags out, and we were taking pictures. And call it inexperience, I removed my cap and my goggles just to make sure that the photos come clear. And that's how I realized, what big blunder I had made. Because the moment you remove a headgear, you start feeling dizzy. The effects of high altitude get into you. So a thing which is known as acute mountain sickness, I had only read about it. And unfortunately, it was my first time I felt it. I realized what actually acute mountain sickness is all about. I was lucky that my team was strong. Within moments, I realized, I'd make a big mistake, and we started moving down, covering all together. And that's how we learned our lessons. Fortunately, everything went off well, no major problems. But then a lesson was learned that, the moment you're there on mountains, you just cannot let your guard down. You have to be prepared 100% and never ever you can relax till the time you're back at the base camp. It was a close call, no doubt, but then luckily we survived and all the team came back safely. And subsequently, we started preparing for the next expedition. So for that 1 year, once we were preparing for Everest, we did a lot of courses, as was discussed earlier, in the form of we did a basic course, we did advanced course, we did a course called rescue course. In case any casualty happens or anything goes wrong, you need to know the procedures which you need to take. So I went through that rescue course, and finally we did a course which was special for Everest. We had conditions simulated which we were anticipating on Everest. So with this, all these courses armed together, we did a lot of expeditions. Another challenging expedition which we did was an expedition called Mount Kun. So if you go to Leh from Delhi, many times pilots, on the flight, they'll tell you, okay, if you look left and right, you will see a peak massive called Nunkul. So these are two mountains close together. So we said, okay, let's do this Mount Kun, which was 7,000-meter peak. So we started and we again, started moving towards Kun. It was a very challenging peak, no doubt. 7,000-meter peak is no child's play, and the level of difficulty is on a different level altogether. So, and mountains, one thing is very peculiar is the moment you start climbing higher and higher, the unpredictability of the weather becomes very, very high. So there was a point we were on the summit camp, waiting for the summit clear window to start, and there was snowfall. And we were there stuck inside a tent for 4 days. Can you imagine? We were just getting up, clearing a tent so that we don't get buried under the snow, and then going back to the tent again. So for 4 days, we had to just push the snow away from a tent and stay away, stay awake, stay motivated, because it's very easy to get demotivated in those situations. You don't have many people to talk to, you don't have any resources, you don't have anything to keep yourself engaged. And I still remember the final day. Once we were there, on the fourth day, we had one packet of Maggie between 8 of us, and we just had no option. We couldn't have gone up that time. We couldn't have come down, because if you're not able to do a 7,000-meter peak, then what are you going to tell your superiors that you're going to do Everest, which is 8,800. So it was a very tricky decision, but then we realized, being an army team, we had to push, and we did a day climb, and we reached slowly, one step after the other, we reached on top of Mount Kun. So imagine the happiness a team leader would have with, all the team members on top of Mount Kun, all safe, and then surviving on just a packet of Maggi. I was very, very happy. I couldn't have been happier than that. So in the exuberance, I thought, okay, let me give a confirmation to my headquarters in Delhi that, we have managed to accomplish this. Again, inexperience played. I took out the satellite phone, started dialing the number. And satellite phone numbers you cannot dial with your hand. You need to remove the gloves. You wear 3 to 4 pair of gloves, then only you are able to dial the numbers, because otherwise you'll not be able to do with the help of gloves. So I started dialing the number. I couldn't connect. I did twice, thrice. The third time I dialed the number didn't connect. I realized my hands were getting numb, because this was the lesson I learned, that on mountains, again, I had made a mistake. I had removed my gloves, which meant I could anytime be in frostbite, or I could lose my fingers. And I started feeling that my hands were numb. I was losing control on my fingers. And then I was reminded of an incident. There's a beautiful book which is written on a peak called Mount Annapurna. In that, there was this guy, the team leader. He went on top of Annapurna and he was clicking a picture. And while clicking the picture, he removed his gloves. Because your photograph is not possible if you're wearing a glove. So this guy removed his gloves and accidentally the glove went down into the valley. And as luck would have it, in those conditions, if you lose your glove, it's as simple as losing your hand. And this person came back to the base camp only to lose his hand, and he had to get the hand amputated. So with this knowledge in my background, I felt the number I was dialing couldn't connect, and then my hands were getting totally numb. I put my hand inside my mouth just to get the warmth from my mouth, but then it did not help. I put it under my armpit so as to get the warmth. It did not help at all. Finally, one thing I realized, in mountains, the only thing which is in your control is to lose height. We started running down, and I told my buddy, okay, I said, let's run. And we started running as fast as we could. And the moment we started running down faster and faster, the heart rate increased, the blood circulation increased. And increased blood circulation means the oxygen levels would go up, The blood would carry oxygen and then different parts of your body would get oxygen and then it resumed. So it was a very risky attempt that way because I narrowly managed to escape without getting hurt or without losing my fingers. But then these kind of experiences set a good foundation for the kind of challenge which is going to come ahead of you. And in our case, that challenge was, nothing less than the Everest. So with this kind of confidence, we reached Nepal. I remember it was 2nd of April 2019. We started climbing. Now for Everest again, it's very tricky because it's not that you just go and you start climbing because there's a 12 days of trek from Lukla, and from Kathmandu to Lukla again the flight is very scary. And I was saying it's on Everest one of the most interesting thing is that journey of flight from Kathmandu to Lukla because it's a very small airfield, and the moment you take off from Lukla from Kathmandu and the pilot decides that he needs to land on Lukla, there's no second thoughts. If he's decided he'll start landing, then he cannot negotiate that and turn back. So he has to land. And there's so much of turbulence because it's in valley and then the airstrip is very small that the moment you get in, the flight is, lot of turbulence is there. And most of the time your heart is in the mouth that whether you're going to survive or not this flight. So it was extremely challenging experience. We reached Lukla. We did a trek for 12 to 13 days. Now, one thing I want you to note, I know, that it's not easy for everyone to get this opportunity to climb Everest, but then it's doing an Everest base camp trek is a totally different experience. And believe you me, if you get this opportunity, you must do it. Everest base camp trek is number one thing in the bucket list of most of the people in this world, right? So Everest base camp trek must do whenever you get an opportunity, must grab that opportunity. It's a beautiful trek. It needs good amount of preparation, no doubt, but then it's still achievable. Unlike, Everest, which is extremely challenging, this one has good amount of challenge and good amount of learning as well. So we started moving and we reached the Everest base camp after 12 days of trek. Once you reach the Everest base camp, other thing to note is that, from base camp to Everest, it's not a one-way journey. You don't go to camp 1, camp 2, and on top. How you do it is that, you start from base camp, you go to camp 1, you acclimatize. Acclimatize is a process wherein you spend some time on Everest, on the camp, and low oxygen levels. And then once your body develops enough blood cells, then you come back. It's adjusting a body to low oxygen conditions, a process called acclimatization. And it's all mind game, Everest, a lot of people might think it's only physical strength, but believe you me, 20% is physical. 80% of that comes from your head. The mental strength is the one which keeps you pushing because your body will give up very, very soon. From base camp, you cross a glacier called Khumbu Glacier, which is considered to be the most dangerous place on Earth because one third of the casualties which happen on Everest takes place here on the Khumbu Icefall. There are a lot of seracs, a lot of ice falls which keep falling, and then people getting casualties very high. So from base camp, you start your movement. You go to camp one, and then you spend some time there, maybe 2 to 3 hours. Then you come back on base camp. You take a rest because this exercise burns lots and lots of calories. You again regain your strength. You start moving again to camp one. You spend some time on camp one, then you go to camp two. You spend some time on camp two, and then again you come to camp one, and again you come to base camp. So imagine the flight. You have to climb on top, but then instead of going up, you're coming down again. Next time you go to base camp one, you go to camp two, spend the night at camp two, then you go to camp three, right? And first part is from camp three, you can see where you have to go, but then you're not going up. You're again coming to base camp. So it's a very difficult experience and different kind of a challenge. That manzil सामने आकी, but manzili की तरफ ना जाके you are taking a step back. It's like taking one step back to go 2 steps forward. So once all these things are done, you again come to base camp and then you wait for a weather window. Now, very interesting part is out of 365 days in a year, it's only 5 to 10 days wherein you climb the Everest. Last year we had 3 days only in May wherein you could climb the Everest because otherwise the weather is very, very harsh. The very, very strong winds. The temperature is -50, -60, or even worse. So you look for ideal conditions. जिस दिन आपको clear weather window मिलेगा, you check with the best meteorological agencies in the world, and then you get to know that okay, these times and these days are the ones which are ideal for climbing the mountain. Once you get this window, then you start moving forward. You go to camp one, you go to camp two, spend the night at camp two, you go to camp three. On the night of camp three, you start moving towards camp four. You reach camp four at about 12 or 1 in the afternoon, and then you start the same night because camp four is at 8,000 meters. 8,000 meters is called the death zone. Anybody who has ever read about Everest would know death zone means death, which means even if I'm just sitting there and not doing anything, my body is eating itself. अपने आप को खाती रहती है, slowly keep shutting down. To give you an example, we were going on the Everest. I was the team leader. I was leading. मेरे पीछे पूरी team आ रही थी, and there are ropes placed over there. Okay, so this guy who was sitting there, rope के साथ अपने आप बैठा था. I went up to him and I told him, I said, don't keep sitting for long because your body will start shutting down on its own slowly. So you must get up and keep moving. And I just nodded and shook his body, and only to realize that this person was sitting there for past 4 days. एक बार वहां पे बैठा 4 दिनों से this guy had become a corpse by then, dead body बन के वहां पे बैठा होता. And that is the time it hits you. It hits you that this could have been you, as simple as that. This guy must have equally prepared well. पूरा मेहनत करके, पूरा तैयारी करके वहां पे he is there, and then such a thing has happened. So it really shakes you up because everybody knows that once you are climbing Everest, you have about 250 to 300 dead bodies there. वहां पे body decompose नहीं होती because temperature is so low. At such low temperatures, the body stays that way. So there are about 300 dead bodies there on Everest, and this was just one of those. And it really shakes you up inside, that this thing could have been with any of you or the team members. And with army, anything going wrong with me is acceptable because I'm answerable to my own self. But then anything which goes wrong with my team members, I had a team of 20, and then 14 of them reached the summit because those were part of this climbing team. And those 14 members, I am answerable, right? Anything going wrong with them, anybody losing fingers, losing eyesight, I am the team leader, the onus lies with me. So with this kind of responsibility, this kind of authority, it comes a lot of pressure, a lot of thinking, a lot of planning. When do you have to climb? What all things do you need to note? What should be the order of march? Who should be leading? Who should be coming in the end? So a lot of preparations, a lot of planning needs to be done if you want to achieve what you have to achieve. Subsequently, I remember 8 o'clock we started moving for the Everest, and it was a tough day. It was tough because we were close to the highest point on Everest, and anything which could go wrong was wrong. In the sense, we could not get a good sleep, we didn't eat properly, we didn't have adequate food to eat because खाने का मन नहीं करता, पानी आपके पास frozen हो जाता है, पानी इतना ठंडा रहता है कि even if you carry water, it becomes ice very soon. And then your hands are numb, and you're having severe headache, and your breathlessness is always there. Each step, if you take, then you take a breath of, this is the kind of breathing you do even after taking just one step. So you take one step, you take a break, you regain your breath, and then you take the next step. As simple as that. So slowly I was moving forward, and I was really cursing myself कि कहाँ फंस गए, इतना बुरा लग रहा था. But then deep down, I was pretty happy. And I was happy because later on I realized, उस समय मुझे समझ नहीं आता कि I am so happy inside. इतना सब कुछ गलत होना चाहिए, मेरे को बुरा लगना चाहिए, but that was not happening. And the reason why I was happy, because I felt this was my day, sort of a thing, that I had worked so hard for it, my team had prepared so well, and today was the day to prove ourselves. Today was the day, we had to show what we are made of, kind of thing. And believe you me, very rarely do you get this kind of a challenge in life. बहुत कम ऐसा मौका मिलता है जब आपको अपने आप को प्रूव करने का मौका मिलता है. And that was our day to prove ourselves. And the very fact that I am able to share that journey means, we were able to prove it. And the team came back super successful. And in fact, we were so good that in Nepal government, they had sent a message to our Prime Minister, and we were invited by Modi ji. And Prime Minister called one of the team members and said, कि बेटा तुम्हें कैसा लगा जब एवरेस्ट पे गए? And initially I had briefed him about Khumbu Ice Fall, about 8,000 meters, camp things, and very interestingly, he took a lot of inquisitiveness about the expedition. And then randomly he asked one of the team members, "Beta, tumhe kaisa laga?" And the person replies to the Prime Minister of India saying that, "कि sir, हम ऊपर जाके वापस आ गए, हमें पता ही नहीं चला." Which means the level of confidence this person had in the training was immense, right? जितना आपने ट्रेनिंग हार्ड किया होता है उतना आपका रिजल्ट अच्छा रहता है. So as the National Defense Academy taught me, it said, I still remember the first day there was a big poster in my squadron which says that, the more you sweat in peak, more. And we did exactly that. We trained so hard that the final expedition, though it was difficult, but then we didn't feel that big a challenge handling that. So this was our journey of Everest. Immense learning. What I've learned in past, I would say 43 years of my life, that 1 year of my Everest has taught me a lot of learnings, a lot of challenges, a lot of situations wherein I literally had to pull my hair and decide कि क्या करना है, कैसे करना है. But then in the end, as I say, all's well that ends well. And we were lucky that in spite of so many casualties, so many people losing their fingers or getting frostbite or getting into trouble on Everest, all 14 members of my team reached the summit, not even a single scratch. And the expedition was super successful, I will say. So this was our journey of Everest, our way of exploring our inner capabilities, our way of living our dream. And since then, since my Everest last year, I've been to various institutes like IITs, IIMs, various corporates, various government establishments, and it's been an amazing journey sharing with people, learning and sharing the experiences. But then one thing I've realized, a lot of people they come up to me and they say, "Ki, okay, Romil sir, you've been able to do it. Uh, how do we do Everest?" To which I say, it's not that if I've done Everest, everybody else has to do Everest. It's a very important point to note. My dreams are my dreams. Your dreams are your dreams. It may be that our dreams are same. It may be dreams are different. It's not that everybody would have same aspirations in life. Everybody has got their own calling in life, your true calling as they call it. Frankly, if you have not been able to identify your true calling, then you still need to work. You still need to find out what is one thing which gives you happiness inside. क्या है जो आपको इतना खुश रखता है? Something which makes you forget everything else and focus on what you want to do. So important in life is to find your own true calling in life. Once you find your true calling, don't leave it. The way we did our Everest, I want you also to work that hard, prepare, plan, take help, volunteer, have confidence in yourself that you'll be able to do it. So prepare your best, give it your best shot, whatever you're doing, it could be studies, it could be any games, sports, it could be social welfare, it could be, looking after the community. There are immense things, they can be infinite number of things for people to do, uh, infinite number of things for people to find happiness in. But then each one is different. You have to find what gives you happiness and follow that. And if you follow that, I'm sure you will get the success which we were able to achieve with our kind of perseverance and never say die attitude. And if you keep doing it, the results are going to be very, very sweet. I'm sure you would agree 100% to it once you're able to do that. Right? And thanks again for this opportunity. If I'm able to contribute anything positively towards your goal or aim in life, I'll be extremely helpful. Feel free to get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to be of any help to you. Thank you so much. That's all from my side. Anyone, any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to address them.
Yeah, uh, we shall take questions quickly, but before that, thank you very much, Romil Bharadwaj, for this energetic, lively, a wonderful manifestation that you have just delivered. In fact, uh, the topic that you chose, finding your own Everest, and while listening to your narrations of where you have been, are, and would be, I felt it was a process from recovery to discovery. And in between, I also, I'm a student of literature. So I was connecting your journey with one of the poems of Robert Frost. He writes, "Stopping by woods on a snowy evening." So Frost at times had you narrated that your hands are numb, mind is stuck. So he says he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. So when you said that, it was just like कि phone mil raha hai nahi mil raha. But at the end he says the woods are lovely, dark and deep. And I would say the mountains here. I would add a word in Frostian poem. The mountains are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So I think you shared those prized possessions of your life, which are not only, of course, karmic and very, very, indeed helpful for every human being, for every mankind to live a life of satisfaction, to live a life of great achievement. So with this, I am deeply honored. I am deeply thankful to you for sparing your time in Dr. Ambedkar International Center. And before we close the session of today, I am also looking at the watch, which is very moving, quickly. So I would quickly take one or two questions. I think because it would make this session more interactive, and we have many, guests today who have joined this session from the outside. I would also, am deeply thankful to them. So let us take one or two questions if we have, and after that we will end this session. Thank you, Romilji, once again, and hope to meet you in person sometime. Yeah, any
Thank you
questions?
so much.
Yeah. Any question? Ramesh? Okay, Ramesh Babu Para is asking a question.
Just unmute. Hello, am I audible? Hello, hello. Sir, this is really deep and thought-provoking and inspiring journey that you have actually narrating. So while listening to you is actually inspiring to set a goal, what we have to achieve in life. But one doubt actually came to my mind when you are actually describing that moment, when you have reached at a level and you are losing somebody, and when you have seen the people, dead bodies and all. So at that time, what was actually your mind like? No, so since you have actually leading the team and also you have responsibility and your own self. So that actually what was your mind at that time?
First of all, Rameshji, let me compliment you.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So first of all, let me compliment you. Great question, I must say. It's some echo.
Yeah.
Okay, so army life is totally different. As I said, had I gone alone, I would have got different feelings.
Yes. Yes.
So the first feeling once you see a dead body is once you see a dead body is you are scared. Uh, I think there's an echo. Right, now it's fine. So the first feeling is, you are scared, no doubt, everybody is a human being, and it's bound once you see a dead body to be scared, especially once you want to seek adventure. On the contrary, you don't want other people to know that you're feeling scared because you are the team leader. If you're scared, then it gives a very negative impact on everyone else. So you keep all your thoughts to yourself, and once you go inside your tent, you're all alone. That is the time you let the emotions come outside. You know, on the outside, you have to show that you're the tough guy. And after the initial uh, uh, experience to this, you're shaken up, but then very soon you compose yourself, you understand the kind of responsibility which is there on you, and that's not a moment to uh, feel low at any time. That is a time to live up to you and improve your stature in front of a team and to show that you are much tougher than what you actually are. So you have to dig deep and find the best version of you and be like that. That's how the feeling is once you find yourself in an extremely challenging situation.
Hey, hi, Romil. Uh, Romil, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, Romil. This is Gaurav. I am a distance runner. I am a 42-kilometer runner. I did Ladakh marathon in 2018, and I was selected from this base camp trek in 2017. There I saw the mountains, and then I really felt that there is something in the mountain which calls me up. And then after I thought, ki I should do this as what. And then I started pursuing mountaineering. I did enroll for a basic mountaineering course, but unfortunately, COVID happened. I was about to join this year for basic mountaineering. But what happened with me, I got on my motivation low, but still, I want to do this. Do you think age is a factor here? I'm 25 currently. Do you think age is a factor?
See, Gaurav, you're 25. I am 44, and I did Everest when I was 43. So even now, if you want me to answer, then I think I failed in my, description past 1 hour.
This thing,
Go,
I addict in my college life. I'm an architect by profession, so I left drugs while मतलब what happened is I wanted to come out of these drugs and all that stuff. Started taking heroin in my college just because I did not want to do architecture. But what happened is my doctor suggested me to do something in sports. Then I started playing badminton, which happened to have me got into strength training. There I got my coach who introduced me to running, and then I started running, and then I got to the concept that there is a thing which is called marathon where you run distances. So it happened to me for running as a new drug. And then I started running and I started doing yogas and stuff. And I worked really hard over myself. I was a 49 kg, very thin guy. Then I motivated myself, and then I got into stuff. And in 2017, I started running in 2015. Then I got selected in Everest Base Camp Trek. I was among 6 people who were selected. So I went to EBC. There I saw Amma Dablam, the Queen's necklace. So I don't know if I'll be able. I have an ambition to scale Everest. I was at Kala Patthar. The one incident you said that aapne gloves utare, and it was like, oh fuck, why did you did it? So this happened with me. So you know, I am a young guy at 23. I celebrated my birthday on Everest Base Camp. When I was 23, I cut my cake on 11 November on Everest Base Camp. So what happened is the same thing. मुझे लगा इतनी ठंड होगी नहीं. I just got my gloves off and I felt like दो ही photo तो खींचने, and it was suddenly so cold. I thought I lost my hand and this won't save me again. My hand wasn't working. It was I thought मतलब मैं gloves पहनूं कैसे, क्योंकि it was right.
I think the connection got interrupted. So do we have any other question?
Yeah, one question. Hi, Romil. This is Monish. Tell me one thing, Romil. In your Everest climb, there must have been moments when you had self-doubt and you felt, यार मैं कहाँ फंस गया यार, I should not have been here. तो ऐसे situations में what was the mindset that you had, right? So how did you motivate yourself? तेरा mindset क्या था कि to continue? Because easiest way तो है कि मैं वापस आ जाऊँ यार. लेकिन moments तो आए होंगे, tough moments आए होंगे mind में, यार मैं कैसे continue करूँ इसको आगे. तो उस moments में जब तेरे self doubt था, कहा था कि मैं कहाँ फंस गया, वो moments को तूने कैसे overcome किया?
right, Manish, so frankly speaking, now it's a different story. But then every time I've been on any expedition, leave Everest, उससे पहले भी जो मैंने किया था, let's say 5,000 meters, 6,000 meter, every time I used to curse myself कि यार कहाँ फंस गया मैं. And the moment I come back to base camp, I would say कि यार मैं वापस जाती ही ना, I'll withdraw my name, I'll not go for Everest. That used to be my thing. But that's what the beauty of life is all about. The more you struggle, the more the sense of achievement is. अब जिस चीज के लिए जितना स्ट्रगल करेंगे ना, उसके लिए once you achieve it, the level of confidence, the level of happiness is that much high. So let's say I was at Stoke County, I was crying literally कि मैं 5,500 मीटर पे I was struggling very badly. But the moment I reached the top, it's a clean slate. You forget everything. The happiness of reaching on top makes you forget everything, and that happiness pushes you for next summit. Same thing happened for 7,000 meters. Same thing happened for Everest. Once I was there on Everest, तब तो कोई option ही नहीं था. मतलब I knew that I cannot back down. I mean, that's what army is all about. Even if you are in deep shit, you don't feel it that way. You don't let people know that how bad you're feeling. It's just that you have to stay strong, stay motivated, dig deep inside, and then keep pushing on. That's what is all about. Army is. So, and that time I said कि यार इसके बाद तो कभी mountains में नहीं आऊंगा. And then I started my own company on mountaineering, and then we did an expedition recently. So it's all about life, you know. Once you struggle for something, you achieve something, you forget the, you know, the hassles or the pains which are there during the course.
Perfect. Thank you.
All
We have to
right.
do a river rafting program with you, huh? Hopefully next year.
Sure,
Varun,
sure,
I'm
anytime.
sorry- Varun, I'm sorry you're again muting me. Just
No, see, we have to actually, close the session now. So I would request Vikas Trivedi ji to just say a few words.
just one.
Be quick, Gaurav. Don't explain.
Yeah,
Please ask question if you
just,
have.
no, nothing. I just want to ask, what is the Everest within you want to get over every day? Just because there is a pandemic and I get demotivated and all that stuff. Just one question.
Okay,
How to
okay,
get
that's fine.
the Everest
Okay,
within
fine. We
yourself.
got your question.
That's it.
See, Gaurav, the thing is, you know, everyone has their own set of challenges. Some people might feel कि यार ये pandemic आ गया, that's the end of it. But then, if you know, you have seen much worse situation. You've been an addict, you're saying. You've seen the worst things in life. So you know how to get over it. And, you know, pandemic and all kind of might feel small for you because you have seen worse things. So it's just that you have to self-motivate yourself. And the more you do it, you come out a better person every time. That's my take. Varun ji, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Romil ji. From our side, if Vikas Trivedi ji wants to say a few words, then it's fine. Yeah, Vikas ji. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Colonel Romil Barthwal. Like, in fact, it was a very, very nice interaction and very, very educative. Half the people in army also don't get that chance of going to the Mount Everest. And in fact, for everybody here who was listening to you, and I'm sure everybody's pulse were feeling that they all have reached that height. So thank you once again for joining us and enlightening all our scholars and all our staff and the faculty which is here. And I especially thank Varun Gulati for organizing this meeting. And we hope to see you again and again here with much more different things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vikas. Thanks, Varun ji.
Okay, have a nice day to all of you.
Thank you.